Okay, because we like to share that on YouTube. You can see my screen, I hope?
Yes.
Yes, great.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, so welcome. Welcome to our, I think, third community event. It's Q4 221, but we also look into 222. I hope everyone would had time to celebrate a little bit and just slow down to speed up again in January and took the time with family. So Q4, 3 months, a lot of stuff happened. The agenda for today is, again, I will just summarize why we do this and what are the rules and what you can expect. And we look back to Q4 and we have a good proportion, I think this time even more than looking back. We have looking forward to the first quarter. And then we have an open discussion round. So please feel free to interrupt me whenever you think makes sense, because I think I have a lot of content, or we have a lot of content to transport, but you should just be priority because we're doing this for you. Community for us, we try to make this call once per quarter. We are actively thinking about monthly, but I think that's for now enough. We have a Slack group which is quite not empty. There are a lot of people there, but not much is happening. Still, I want you to know that it's there. Berger asked me, I think yesterday, if it makes sense to join. I just told him it is there, but we did not found a way to activate the people. I think we have 400 people there, plus minus. We have the product newsletter, where I hope you applied. Every user of the Ingenious platform, which is part of the owner, gets this newsletter, and you can follow every other week the changes in the platform. And we have the release notes where you can have the more real time, like you could look into the release notes, you can wait for the product newsletter, or you can wait for 3 months to pass to have this meeting. For our community, we have a code of conduct, which I linked to, where you can look at. Basically, it just means the playground and the rules we want to have in this community. Nothing special, but you can follow the link to see the details. If you see any inappropriate or behavior, you can send it to us if you see something in Slack or something. But it's important for us that the rules are clear for everyone and that we work nicely together and polite. Yeah, for the beginning, we look back on Q4. What I do now is exposing some of the parts of the release note. This is not a full list, but these are more or less the highlights. What we did is we had a lot of feedback basically from partner side that they have to create API keys after sign up manually. And also every link in the platform, for example, exporting creatives, exporting product data and other stuff, did not contain their actual API key, but just a temporary one, which was causing a lot of friction when they wanted to automate. And what we did, we changed the platform that for every user, a default API key is generated. It does not matter what this role is. So every administrator and every partner has an API key, restricted for sure to their account. And basically you see this in your credentials area here. So here there is an auto-generated API key. The moment you feel your API key was exposed to a place where you don't want it, like it was publicly available, you can revoke it. The system will generate a new one. Simple trick, but the results or the effect is big, because whenever you have something in the platform where you do an export, now for example, here, some of the exports, now this API key which you have is used. So you can take that link and just call it in a browser every other day or automate the export, and it will simply work. There is no temporary API key in place. And this works also for partners. What we did in addition is we used that API key to a little bit bridge the gap to the API documentation, which is very important to partners, by the way. So when I log into a partner, maybe just choose any partner. I think it makes no difference. So yes, also this partner should have a auto-generated API key, but we also extended the main menu to point to an API documentation. But now this API documentation is already authenticated. So when a partner or an administrator follows the API documentation, then as you see in the browser, the API key is passed here. So when I now go to the API documentation and hit try, I already made an API call in my browser with my user credentials. So we try to close the gap for partners and maybe also advertiser users to just be able to quickly get a good user experience with trying out the API. So that was one thing which was important to us from the administrator side. So that was partner side. From the administrator side, we have also the platform documentation and also a user-specific documentation, which is like more restricted and it's not the full platform. So the number of endpoints here is different than you go to the full platform documentation. I have now every right, so I have all of these endpoints. So that is basically the change which came with API keys and bridging the gap for people who want to automate. I already told you about the new API documentation. For your own platform, it is white labeled. So what you saw was the Ingenious like demo brand, but for you, it is the API documentation is white labeled. For your partners, it's white labeled. But the same functionality applies, that you can directly go in there. And now you have also a try button. So you can simulate API calls. This is not running in a sandbox environment. It is actually the real platform, but it is running on your user or the user credentials you have. So it should be easy to explain automation to people. Okay. Next area, self-service. So the Ingenious platform still contains some areas. We have a list where you have to ask us to do something. For example, if you want to rename your platform, I mean, that does not happen every day, but it is just us who can do this. But there were some more important functionality which was restricted just for Ingenious users to change for historical reasons. One of them is the analytics area. So when you have insights analytics, where you have, if your advertiser is using the multi-channel cross-device tracking and all of that, and customer journey analysis, and you have this analytics area where just we could enable it per advertiser. But for our performance network customers, where you have daily advertisers coming and going, for example, Baboon, it was not manageable anymore. So we've made it available for the administrators of the network. Also the single touch configurator, where you can change the attribution priorities for your partners, who should win in case of several partners in the customer journey, is also now available via self-service, which you might already recognize. I now switch from like the general access API key stuff and be able to access functionality to the area of tracking, where I would hand over to Martin. Mm-hmm. Martin, if you think you want to share your screen to show something, please do.
Yes, I will. Thank you, Siamak, and welcome to this meeting. So. Here it is. Yeah, digital track configurator. We did a lot on this UI page in order to remove old parameters and clean up the whole menu for parameters that we offer to you, and in order to concentrate and group the most used one on the first level. And also we introduced some new parameters, especially on the e-commerce side, which I want to show you now, to give you more flexibility in sending us data, especially on e-commerce side, like the tax value, the stock keeping unit, or the discount code on basket positions. And last but not least, we also introduced some new functionalities for validating and testing the tech, which allows you to be sure that the tech that you configure will work in your runtime. So these 3 points, I would say it's one of the most heaviest changes on that page since the last 4 years for the tech configurator, and I'm lucky to show you now the new one. Where is it? Yeah. Switch. By the way, you can find the tech configurator in trail tracking tags, and then you can choose a certain one. And I have chosen now the conversion tag, which allows you for sure parameters that fits into the conversion tag. And yeah, as you can see here, we have grouped the parameters in several columns, like more or less categorization and identifying, commercial one on the conversion level, like order value, discount code, and for attribution and from customer level that can be submitted. This is the first level. We also introduce or move parameters on the advanced level that shouldn't be shown at the first time for the first view. But if you want to go deeper in parameters, you can also have a look here to find more values that you can submit. Really important, that's not a complete list of parameters that we support. We also have a documentation of all supported tracking parameters, and for sure, you can submit any value in the parameter that you want on a conversion tag, which will be added to the free parameters. So you're not restricted to this set of parameters, but it's a set of parameters that we want to propose to you. And let me show the testing and validating functionality. As you can see here, each parameter has an input box. That's also totally completely new, because in the past it was not possible to specify a complete working tracking tag. With these values, you can, which means if you now generate example data, all parameters will get some random data, but they need to they match to the purpose, like an order value or a session ID or conversion ID. So you can directly or immediately use this code or tag for your tracking implementation. If you don't want to have all of these comments to the parameters, you can also hide these comments in order to make a more clean tag, which you can give immediately to your development team or whoever you want. And you can also push the validate button, which will fire this tag to tracking and gives you a good feedback if it's green. And in an unlikely moment of failure, you will have the explanation which is going wrong. Usually, that will not happen because all parameters in this formula are more or less correct, but it could happen that internally the configuration with your platform is wrong or something else. So you can really have a good feeling if you click to the validate button in order to be sure that tracking is really able to consume this information. And last but not least, once you have finished your configuration and parameters that you don't want to have are disabled, you can copy the complete tag in the clipboard to for your team or whatever you want. Let me show you now the new parameters that we have added. It's on the basket or e-commerce level, which is shown here. It's really more detailed than the conversion level and allows you to put information in a list of positions. And we see here one position, for example. And you can also generate example data for sure. And the new ones are the SKU, stock keeping unit, the discount and shipping and tax. These parameters are new on basket level, and I think it's really necessary to have it because this is reflecting the e-commerce or retail part of of shops, and so we are now more flexible and we have more functionalities to store and consume these kind of data. Yeah, that's so far from that side. I think that was a quick walk through this configurator page, and yeah,
it was fine. I think we transported the idea of it. It was
yeah.
good. Yeah.
Can I ask a quick question?
Mm-hmm.
So the validation button, what is it validating against? So just to make sure that the required variables are populated and that the date type format is correct as well?
Exactly. You can do it. You can use a not existing conversion target, which is the parameter placeholder itself. And if I would use validate now,
Yeah, it's calling tracking, Durga. It's calling tracking, and tracking has a parameter to just have like validate it. Because this is not based on a click or something, it does not validate partnerships or partners, just if parameters are there. However, it is executing backend logic. So if attribution would be so the configuration would be wrong or something, this is also executed. It does everything except storing the conversion, but it attributes, it identifies devices, it tries to identify geography and everything else, like the user agent and everything else is parsed and parsing is applied. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the error message I got on my end as well, but then there was no reference to CTG anywhere, so I was a bit confused.
Yeah. Okay. So you mean CTG was not showing you that it is like in the upper part? Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there's if I search the page for CTG, there's no reference. I don't even know what field that is. It's probably conversion target, but the acronym above is TRG.
Yeah, this is thank you for mentioning this, because we already identified that there's a translation problem. You are right. The parameter is CTG, and here you should see CTG instead TRG.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, that would make sense then. Okay, that would help.
And unfortunately, I wasn't able to put a minus, a negative amount, because it's not supported or not allowed in this formula. But if you would send a tag with a minus order value, a negative order value, that would also send you an error. So we have a certain amount of checks which are done with the validate button, and especially the master data and the relation between is checked, so you can have a look to what would tracking do in case of a conversion request. Okay.
So if I perform a live test, I could copy and paste the conversion object into the field and perform a validation against the system.
This was, by the way, this is also an idea that we want to have in the future, to have this this tag. You cannot put it here right now, but it's really also part of the upcoming ideas that we have on this side, that you are able to configure your own tag on your side, and then just for purpose on checking and tracking, you can put it here to make a validation. But at the moment, it's not possible to put tag information here. It's a read only.
Well, it's half true. It's not possible via the UI. It would be possible in a browser with a preview parameter. But yeah.
And each parameter that you don't want to use will not shown here in the script part or the code section. So yeah, that's clear, I think. Okay. that's so far from my side on this.
Thank you, Martin. Do you have another slide? Because you are...
No, not yet, but in a few
Okay.
slides I will.
Cool. Then I'll take back. Great. What happened on the data side? So for some of you who already use the BigQuery data source, you recognize that data is arriving faster. So we initially, when we built this synchronization to BigQuery, we had like, I don't know, every 6 hours, every 4 hours, something very slow for freshness. And we brought that down to configurable level. The currently configured level is for the dimension data, users, partners, advertisers, creatives, all of that stuff is, I think, 15 minutes, 10 to 15 minutes, whatever we configure. And conversions are hourly and stuff like that. So what you see is that we can now prioritize certain data, especially user data is important for customers who use BigQuery because the rights and role system in BigQuery, so what data are you allowed to query? So the limitation of data, which rows are you able to see, is based on users which need to be synchronized from the Ingenious system to the BigQuery data source. And that's like 50 minutes is even too much for this kind of data. So the user, after they configured it, if they want to use BigQuery, they have a latency. However, what we did in terms of speed is not only important, but it's also about the accuracy of data. So what we, as you know, conversions in the Ingenious system have updates. So a conversion arrives typically in an open state and needs to be validated, rejected, validated, partially validated, like basket items are edited until the conversion reaches an, I don't know, a stable state, an equilibrium. For each change, the original time where the conversion was created, the statistics for the day where it was processed or ingested, it can be months and months, even years in the past. So the Ingenious system is not very limited in that because there are so many business models where customers are using the system for different reasons, not only affiliate marketing and not only the last month is important, but it might be 2 years ago, which means the statistics of that day where the conversion was created was, until a certain point, I think 2 months ago, was only updated when it was like the last 3 months or something. And we changed the system that it's not a heuristic, like it's not like 3 months, 6 months, 8 months, but actually it knows every day in the past which needs to be recalculated, and does it very precise. And so when you today change a conversion, the statistics in BigQuery, if we have a statistics table, are changed even for 2017, 18, doesn't matter. And this is new, simply means the statistics data grouped by processing time or ingestion time is more accurate. It was just affecting some customers who have this very long time, but it was enough for us to change it to an incremental model there. Okay, for Q4 that was enough with our efforts. In the release notes you see more details and also pointers to the documentation, and even more than I showed. If you don't know where the release notes are, I can also point you to that, but it's in the documentation release notes. What I didn't show here are the deprecations. Please also look at the deprecation page if some things are announced to be deprecated. So we usually have 3 to 6 months in advance where you know functionality which will be removed. So we always try to reduce the functionality as much as possible. Data-driven, as you know, so we look who might be affected. We go into communication and then try to avoid disruption. And yeah, always try to have an alternative for deprecated functionality. Tobias, might I pull you in because you are so engaged with the podcast? Do you want to share a little bit about the podcast episodes we had in the quarter?
Oh yeah, happy to do so. And in fact, these are very nice ones. So we had an all speakers one. It was done by or recorded by Sabine and myself. And Sabine is from our marketing team, and she was organizing the Partner Marketing Summit. And so we spoke a bit about the Partner Marketing Summit. Plus, we have bits and pieces, like audio pieces of all the participants. So it gives you a very good recap, and it's, I think, to listen to it, what the people actually say, is much nicer than a recap just reading it in a blog, if you ask me. The next one is was with Anja from Artifact agency, just in case somebody doesn't know Artifact. I think as a group they're quite huge, and they were publishing white papers on how to choose your right private work network, how to get started, what to do with technology, etc. And they're really like doing this from an agency and advertisers' point of view. And I talked with her about it, and we talked a lot. We really got into detail. It felt almost kind of nerdy, but in a very nice and positive way. So that's one I can recommend. And the last one is with Frank from Ingenious, one of our senior system architects. And we talked about APIs because it's our Technologie erklärt, or Technology Explained one. It's a series within the podcast, and we really like to explain technology, especially technology words that everybody hears about, like every once in a while, and talk a bit about it and go into detail. So it's a bit like a bit education, a bit Sendung mit der Maus for online marketers. So these are the this in store. So if you're interested, you find it in all your favorite podcasts, podcast players, and we're very happy about every new listener.
Yeah. Also, I want to mention that it's really hard to find people who want to speak in podcasts. Not that they don't have a story to tell, but they are sometimes shy. So if you know someone or yourself want to share something, it can be broadly be associated with Ingenious, or not at all, because we had also podcast episodes about the general topic of marketing or data or something. So feel free to give us a hint who we should chase for to have also interesting guests there. So we're not limiting this to Ingenious employees or something. Just we try to keep a focus as much as possible on partner marketing, affiliate marketing, but as you know, it touches a lot of other areas, data, tracking in general. Okay, as I told you, that was a not so much part. Was Q4. So looking forward.
Yeah.
Martin or Alexei, I'm not sure. Should I try or do you want?
I would like to do.
Please do that, because otherwise I would just read what is there on the screen.
I'm thinking since today how I can translate or can describe these changes, but I want to do really. Yeah, changes happen on tracking side, and especially for the conversion tracking. But this is a good one. Wobei any change is a good one. Yeah. I don't know if you know, but once your conversion is tracked, the process chain is longer than you may seem, and we have in the chain some certain points identified which cause irritations and friction, which means especially the status of a partnership or a partner, for example. The conversion will be tracked, but then in rating, the conversion will be gone to the error page, and which means nothing is shown in the user interface for this kind of conversion. So we would like to give you a better feeling or better experience with tracking, which means this kind of errors will go to the surface, which means the tracking level. So immediately, once a conversion is tracked for a partnership which is maybe deactivated or a partner which is not active, these conversions will go directly to the unattributed part of the data from tracking, and this data is is then shown in the usually BigQuery reports and yeah. Even more we would like to reusable the order ID for conversions. Imagine you cannot submit us a unique conversion ID or order ID from your shop system after maybe 1 or 2 years. Currently, tracking will work fine, but the rating process will also make an error for this kind of conversion because we already have this conversion ID in the platform. We want to change this, and we will change this because we are not we are not in the situation to restrict your shop behavior. So we allow you to give us a reusable order ID based on the attribution window in tracking, which means tracking will do the lookup and the checks. And once a conversion ID has been found for 1 year ago, it will be possible to track this conversion in the platform, and you will also see these kind of conversions in the platform in future. Yeah, these 2 changes will happen this quarter, and honestly, I'm quite lucky that we can eliminate this internal errors and give the behavior back to the user on the first level, because this breakdown or this breaking the chain really is confusing and not that easy to understand from the outside view. Okay, I hope I was able to transfer the idea, but yeah, this change that will happen in tracking this quarter.
Yeah, I think for everyone who is not the advertiser or who's not the merchant owning the platform, but having a lot of them, smaller ones and bigger ones, that might be very important because they are so diverse. It might be that they cannot control their order IDs. I think the second one is the important one. I think your exclamation mark is bigger on the second one for reasons. Is it correct, this one? Or is it just a mistake?
No, it's not a mistake.
Okay.
It was my attention because from my point of view, this is a really, it's against the law. But at the end, I can see every day 100 of conversions with with order IDs which already exist.
But Martin, correct me if I'm wrong. This is like our users don't have to do anything for that. It will just be applied, and there might be for the partner side there might be that attribution changes because it's early refused. But here on the lower side, it just reduces the errors. Correct?
Exactly.
Okay.
And what we can see for the data from the past, all of these conversions which will be affected should be shown in the platform, by the way.
Yeah.
Okay. Is there a certain use case to reuse the order ID, or is it just because there's a mistake while populating the variables?
That's a really good question, by the way. But what we can see is we got conversion IDs from 2 years ago a second time. So I would say it's not really a use case, but we cannot be so restricted because we as a platform shouldn't be the one that claims from the shop to make independent or unique conversion IDs. Yeah, I honestly, normal shop behavior should be able to create unique conversion IDs, but we don't want to restrict the platform, the user.
So basically, there's 2 scenarios. The one is that they don't have enough order IDs, so they, start over again after a year or so. It's very rare, but it does happen. The other one is like with lifetime attribution, etc. So if you have multiple events like, I don't know, in gaming or telco or whatever, like, when you have account top-ups, etc. So this may happen.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense then. Okay, yeah.
Great. Martin, should I take over import-export topic, or do you want it? So
yeah, please, you can.
Okay. So we got complaints, surprise, surprise, about the validation process, conversions. What does that mean? The 80-20 rule says 80% of the users export Excel and CSV files to validate conversions to import them back again. And with 80%, I mean of all advertisers, all 5,000 advertisers, there are some very good users who automate it from the beginning, but like say the 80% rule is like export import. And for that, there were some situations where they had to wait a lot. You had to wait a lot, or your customers had to wait a lot. We are working on this. This is like currently in doing, but it will arrive in Q1 technically. And what that means is we will have more parallelization. So we have imports with 500,000 lines, 800,000 lines in CSVs, and for those cases we are optimizing the system, and we have like introduced latency, like no import could work faster than I think 5 minutes. There were some system limitations in there. Useless. We removed step by step all of them. So fast is fast, and small is fast, and big is also faster. But I mean, what technically is possible. And I think over the lifetime of the users which are using our platform, summarizing the waste we produce at some points, it will be a benefit to society that we reduce the waiting time, and it's just a very important process. I'm joking, but basically that's one of the most important things after tracking, that you can validate, that you can separate between gross and non-gross, like what happened after the conversion was created, about returns, and but also about customers who did something, there was a lead, but it actually never converted. Yeah, that's important. I just want to point it into the public to have also pressure on our side that we also deliver. And that should be normal. But we found out that over years, I think over the last 2 years, because the performance networks exploded in our system, like with number of partners and networks, and we have so many of them that the system itself was needed care at that point. Okay, now for more motivating part, not for the depressing part. Funnelio. We already announced it, I think, in the last community event, but now we are in final testing with Funnelio. What is Funnelio? Funnelio is a tool typically in the marketing stack to combine data sources like Facebook, Google, and any other click conversion source, especially for comparing costs and to calculate return on ad spending. If you look at their website, they have the typical spider, like we have 400 connectors to get your data in, and then you can push your data into your spreadsheet, data warehouse, Tableau, or something. And what Ingenious and the connection between Funnelio and Ingenious is that Funnelio is now able to, or we are in testing, but in the final steps, to pull out statistics about ad impressions, clicks, conversions, pulling statistics just with an API key to be able to compare the data between Facebook, Google, and Ingenious, because Ingenious is typically also a cost source, a source of cost. So every commission which is paid to partners is seen as cost. To be able to calculate the return on ad spending, you need the data at one central point. Marketing teams use a lot Funnel, and we have a big overlap with our customers and with Funnel. So that was a nice fit. So this will arrive beginning of February. The connector will be publicly available, means you can search in your Funnelio account for Ingenious and use that. And the retention time, or the backfill, so how far it goes to the past, is about 3 years as far as I remember. So you can have data from 3 years in the past until today. And yeah, if there is something missing, if you try it out, if you're missing a dimension, if you're missing a metric, if you think other data should be in Funnel, just reach out to us, create a ticket. And we are happy to extend that. We have good relationship to the Funnel team. They are as much engineers as we are, and they're happy to extend the data. And by the way, you get a little bit of Funnelio functionality out of the box, which extends also our reporting. Means you have more dimensions and filter capability there, and combining different data sources. I like that. And we also have a Funnelio account on our own to just test that out. For example, currently, if you have data in different public networks, like, I don't know, Baboon, Awin, Rakuten, or somewhere, you can also combine them in Funnelio. It works, if you know what you're doing. So this will arrive in beginning of February. The Woocommerce plugin, it is in Q1. We have already a version live in the WordPress marketplace, but we are working already on the second version. So what this does is it just is for the small advertiser who is just able to install Woocommerce, and in a basic installation, with basic I mean no modification to the core system. So if Woocommerce is installed, the plugin is able to track ad impressions, store click IDs, and send conversions to the Ingenious system. The specialty here is that we have like first-party tracking without you need to do first-party setup, which means it is sending everything server-side. So page impressions and conversions are sent through the backend of the Woocommerce implementation, which looks great from the outside. So everything is first-party. So that's one of the highlights of this plugin, which we didn't find anywhere else. We looked at the other plugins. And what we are now extending is more configurability. So some of you have your own click ID name, which is like white labeled. So I think Idealo has the Idealo ID, and Baboon has the Baboon ID as a click ID. And we are trying to bring that in for configuration. And we are also extending the use cases for people who don't want to have page impressions. They just want click conversion. Currently, it is measuring everything. And we are also thinking about how to bridge the gap between Woocommerce categories for products and the tracking category of Ingenious, which is not the same. There is an abstraction needed, and we are thinking actively about how to bridge that gap, implement mapping or something like that. Having implemented the Woocommerce plugin allows us to start developing more plugins. Basically, the functionality is the same. And that is also the roadmap for the whole year, to just go into the most important areas. I think Shopify is on the list, and I'm sure like XT Commerce and Typo 3, and I don't know, some of them are in. But
so you're saying transactions are sent server side, so not by the browser, but by the PHP server.
So the browser side of Woocommerce is communicating with an API endpoint in Woocommerce with WordPress, and PHP on the back end is sending everything to our tracking. So from the outside, it just looks like the website is communicating with itself, and this is then sending the data to us. So it's like a proxy, if you want. So the front end part of Woocommerce is communicating with the back end part of Woocommerce, sending the tracking and then the back end is sending it out to us. So it is first party because the website is communicating with itself. And every cookie which is set is also allowed to set in the first party context, because it is the website who is setting, so the PHP part of Woocommerce who is setting the cookie first party.
So the cookie is sent or set via the HTTP response header.
Yes, and it is transferred. So if our tracking sends back a cookie, we set the cookie into the interface or in the client side of Woocommerce. We're transferring this cookie into a cookie, which is on the domain of the shop and not the original tracking. Yeah. So
it's less affected by ad blockers because all the transaction information is sent server side.
Yeah, nothing at all. Nothing at all. So the only way to block this is to just identifying the endpoint which is our plugin add-in. Our plugin adds something where you can identify it that it's there. So we could make that configurable, but yeah, it's a nice solution, which is not possible everywhere. I think for Shopify, it's not possible to have so much server side. I think there are some restrictions.
No, Shopify doesn't. We talked to them, and at least they didn't allow any kind of server code manipulation. Of course, they didn't like our plan.
I know. That's why, Bridget. That's why we thought about.
Siamak, when you let me, I would explain what this is, because I'm working really hard on this.
Do you want to share your screen, or do you want to...
No, you can manage the slides for me. It's
take
only
over.
one.
Okay. It's your...
Yeah, like Martin said, we try to make it really easy for our customers, but we're working really hard that it's really easy for our customers to implement tracking code. And because a lot of customers of ours use the Google Tag Manager, we are a little late to the party, but now we also want to deploy our own community templates. And this is what we're working on. Many of our customers already use the Tag Manager to integrate our on-page and conversion tag, but this was often really error-prone. In the future, the on-page and conversion tag will be available, as you see here, as a community template, and we are taking care to develop a solution that is really customizable for all kinds of customers from us. That means you are able to configure everything you want with this tag, and it's not some weird defaults or so on. You can configure it like you want. You will be happy to know that we will not only develop Google Tag Manager tags, but also provide Google Tag Manager server-side tags. If you're already using Google Tag Manager server-side tracking, you will be able to include the Ingenious tracking on the server side and reduce the data loss caused by ad blockers or browser regulations or something like that. In the area of GTM server side, we are also currently thinking about other ways to make it even easier for customers to use server-side GTM, but here you have to stay tuned. If you want to give feedback or already using GTM server-side, feel free to contact us. We will be really happy if we get some feedback from you, because for us it's a little bit a new field, but yeah, like I said, a little bit late to the party. Yeah.
Not for server side. We're not late for the
not for server side, but for the GTM part.
Can I connect you with someone on my team, perhaps? Because we also look into creating server side tag templates. So we have already set up community tag templates over the last year, and luckily Google opened up the Sandbox API a little bit. So in the past they didn't allow any kind of JSON manipulation. So that has changed, which is a great improvement. But we also get more and more requests regarding server-side Google Tag Manager tracking, so which is the other side of the coin.
Yeah, for sure. You can give him your team my email address, or
I think you guys are connected in Slack.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. So Leopold, you were mentioning what we are thinking about the future. So I think you can say something about it. It might not happen. It is not Q1, but I think you can mention stuff which is in our head. I think that's why we have that community call, just to have ideas which might disappear. Maybe we reject everything we said today about what might happen in Q2 or something. Yeah. But feel free, just from my point of view, just throw it out.
We thought a little bit about that we can give our community, our customers, a solution to have their own GTM server-side setting inside the Ingenious platform. That means you can start containers in the platform and can use it there, and we provide the infrastructure for that, and you do not have to use it on the Google platform, which is a little bit hacky, and we will do it for you. And and even if you even if you do not use the platform or only advertiser in a platform and you cancel the agreement with your platform, you can have these capabilities to use these setup also after you can use it. in the
I think
future?
basically we would name it like the managed version of server-side GTM. A shop who is not able to set it up on their side, but knows how to use GTM, would then get from Ingenious a URL where they have a server-side GTM set up for their advertiser, and they just need a GTM account, and then they can just start to configure and not to install server-side GTM, which bridges the gap between today and tomorrow that everyone wants better tracking, but might not be able to set it up. It is for us easier to extend our platform to have server-side GTM available per advertiser or for advertisers than for, I don't know, some random company trying to sell that independently, we think. So whoever on your side who has advertisers and has a lot of them, I'm looking into the direction of John and Birger, and and also I think also to the people from Tiendas who are here. It might be something where we can help the advertiser to increase the tracking quality dramatically without so much effort. But we're on the technical side, focusing on templates first, as Leopold said, and then looking at the future. Yeah. Just to stay ahead the wave with Ingenious. Just stay always 1 year ahead the competition. Yeah. Another field, completely forget everything about tracking now. Just go back to the chamber and think about currencies and currency exchanges. So what happens this quarter? We identified the need to support multiple currency exchange providers. Currently, we pull currency exchange data from one provider, open exchange rates. But we have, with new customers, the requirements that we have a very specific currency exchange provider which needs to be used in this platform. That's why we open up and we make it configurable. We will add now one additional provider, but we'll change the system so that more providers are available. For you, it means if you are part of our partner program and sell also our platform to companies, it might be that you have a regulation or a geographical need for another provider. We will change the system, so that's now possible. And yeah, it feels like a minor change from the outside, but I think it's important for us to become flexible here, to also be able to cover more parts of the world and more regulations. So that will happen. Nothing for you will change because all of your platforms will fall back on open exchange rates. Okay, Martin.
Yes, I would like to invite you to give some feedbacks and for the OMR reviews, and we have shared here a link which allows you to give feedback about the platform and the experience with the platform. And it was told that it's possible to grab a 20 euro voucher for that, so it shouldn't be influence you, but maybe it helps. So. Yeah, you are invited and welcome to give feedback because any feedback, either positive or negative, is helpful. And so we are glad to collect this.
Yeah, let me share you some background story on this. So as you know, Ingenious is full white label. It does not exist in the outside. So that's why we are having hard times to present ourselves beside the impacts and the partnerizers and the others in this world, because we simply do not exist. And but we have still the feeling that with direct conversations and projects we have with you, we achieve something. We have projects where we really make a change. I don't want to say an impact, but we do. And so that's basically the background, because in every statistic and quadrant about good movers, like rising stars or something, you won't find an Ingenious. And it makes it a little bit hard for us to progress because we're so white label and so in the background and so infrastructure-like. So that would help. That's all. We will celebrate internally a lot.
Yeah, no, you can count on Idealo, so that will give you a review.
Yeah, great. Okay. I think we reached the end of the presentation. If you have any feedback to the format we have, if you feel there is an aspect missing, you can tell it now, but you can also do it asynchronously. I think with all of you, I have Slack connections. And if you feel there is something also, some aspect about the platform missing, if you, I don't know, want to more about the bugs we solved, because we did not concentrate a lot on like the bugs we solved, but just on the functionalities, just tell us. If you also think you have ideas about what we could do in the next community event, to present maybe a functionality more in depth, or discuss something special, just reach out. You have 3 months to think about it, at least 3 months minus 2 days. And we are happy to change the format, extend the format, and yeah, and to work with you. If you felt you need to ask us something, just wanted to say again, and you're too shy to ask now, just reach out, Slack and Ticket System. We're happy to see what your problem is or what your ideas are, and read the release notes. Don't wait for 3 months, and read the newsletters. Read at least one of those two. And thank you all for your time, I would say. We were, I think, faster than we planned. Is there some question from the round?
I just want to say thank you. This was the first one of these events I've attended, and I'm looking forward to coming to more. We have a kickoff, I think, next week with Idealo Ingenious, so I'll save my questions and feedback for then. We have some topics, but I don't want to get into it now because they're quite Idealo specific. But I really appreciate this little talk, and I look forward. I'm really interested in the podcast, so I was thinking of some ideas that maybe we could be a guest in somehow. But I'll keep you updated in that.
Just give me a shout.
Yeah, and I know Andrea did one last September, I think it was, and it was really nice. And just to let you guys know, by the way, I'm not sure if you know this, but Andrea has moved out of cooperation now. She's now working in domain strategy, so she's not directly involved with our team, but there's certainly other people that I think could be quite nice for a potential podcast, so I'll let you know.
Great, thank you guys. Thank you all for coming. We will have a recording of this session, I think stripped by some seconds in the beginning and at the end on YouTube, and we will share the link with you. Thank you again for your time, and take care. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.